Following the court's confirmation that Kelly Rowland is the mother of Jay-Z's child, Beyonce breaks down. The beginning was a simple photograph of Kelly Rowland and her son Titan, nothing out of the ordinary at first look. Then, however, people began contrasting Titan's traits with those of other people. Not someone you would anticipate. Not Kelly's spouse, Tim Weatherspoon. No, they began muttering something crazy. He resembles Jay-Z. Fans always conjecture, but this one struck a distinct chord. The collective halt was palpable. Titan's jawline, eyes, and nose. The internet started to overflow with side-by-side comparisons. Furthermore, the time wasn't favorable. In 2014, the year Jay-Z grabbed Solange's hands in that notorious elevator, Titan was born. Video. People had long been curious about the true nature of that clash. However, they were now making connections in a completely different way, and you can see why this hypothesis shocked folks if you are familiar with Beyonce and Kelly's past. They were more than simply Destiny's little bandmates. They were best friends in their youth. Kelly was raised almost entirely in the Nolly's home. Other than blood, they were sisters. Therefore, if this story were accurate, it would be nuclear, not merely treachery. Then the video was leaked. 4K resolution, leaving no space for creativity. A video purportedly depicting Jay-Z and Kelly being, well, too close. Of course, no formal confirmations. However, the internet did its thing once more. Timeline analysis and frame-by-frame breakdowns. In an attempt to make sense of it, many were referring to astrological charts. As if things couldn't get any uglier, someone brought up Kelly's previous song, Dirty Laundry, which many used to dismiss as just another confessional from the business. Now, though, it felt like a Target confession. The song's lyrics discuss feeling overshadowed, being in a bad relationship, and being envious of a close friend's accomplishments. It began to sound more like receipts than fiction. But Kelly wasn't the only one involved. The story of Rymir Satwait, a young guy from New Jersey who has been battling valiantly to have Jay-Z take a paternity test, is the most persistent of the paternity rumors that have plagued Jay-Z for years. Wanda Rymir's mother said that she and Jay had a romantic relationship in the 1990s when she was just 16 and he was 22. She consistently made the same assertion. They used protection, but it broke. Jay abandoned her when she became pregnant. Wanda made an effort to make him accept responsibility. Court filings were made. They sent letters. Nothing was successful. Wanda eventually died, and her close friend was given custody of Rymir. However, the legal battle continued. The truth was all that Rymir desired. He only wanted a yes or no response, no fame or money. Jay's team even made contact at one point. Mentorship, assistance from the music industry, and possibly even signing Rymir to a label were discussed. Then, however, everything froze once more. Attorneys withdrew. Quiet. People began to wonder why Jay-Z was making such a big effort to evade a test. Wouldn't it be simpler to prove it and go on if the response was no? Then it grew gloomier. A whole other set of issues would have arisen if Wanda had been a minor at the time of everything. That's what some people think Jay-Z has been avoiding. Because the consequences now could be severe, even if he was unaware at the time. And perhaps, just possibly, Kelly is experiencing the same thing. For Titan is not the only child whose likeness to Jay-Z is drawing attention. There is a pattern to the rumors of other kids in different cities. The potential that secrets, rather than just music and wealth, might form the foundation of Jay-Z's empire. And how much did Beyonce know? That's the one thing that everyone can't ignore anymore. Jay-Z has never been easy to figure out. On the surface, he appears to be the ultimate business tycoon, a Grammy winner, and the man who made a living off of street hawking. However, there has always been something elusive beneath that well-maintained appearance. The man is skilled at manipulating a story. This is the reason the entire thing is so out of character. He was able to avoid the news, get through the turmoil, and stay just beyond the line of controversy for years. However, the pieces no longer fit together. Not when several women are coming forward with experiences that are strikingly similar. Not when no one explains Solange's complete WW moment. In an elevator. Not when stories of secret lovers, secret children, and secret conflict within his own social circle keep surfacing about the same man. For a moment, let's go back to Destiny's Child. Beyonce was the star, as everyone knows, but not enough people discuss the interior dynamics. Buz's father, Matthew Knowles, was the architect as well as the manager. Additionally, others claim that he dimmed everyone else's light, particularly Kelly's, in order to ensure his daughter was always in the spotlight. Rumor had it that Matthew didn't treat Kelly fairly. There are rumors that he favored Beyonce, promoting her voice, ideas, and image even if someone else came up with the idea first. According to reports, Kelly was benched, dressed more subtly, and frequently took a backseat role. It was visible to you? Despite being in the spotlight, she managed to remain unseen. And perhaps just possibly, that affected her in some way. Let's fast forward to 2013. The filthy laundry is dropped by Kelly. All of a sudden, she is revealing to the world that she is in a poisonous relationship, that she feels constantly in the background, and that she is smiling in public while swallowing jealousy. Fans quickly read between the lines, even though she doesn't provide names. The tone and the timing all suggested a single individual. He wasn't just any old person either. Kelly once referred to the lady he was married to as a sister. People began to identify with Titan, who was born the year of the elevator incident and the year Jay-Z was supposedly discovered skulking around. Jay-Z's long history of avoiding straight questions, Kelly's son, Beyonce's quiet, and Solange's fury. Neither did Beyonce's Lemonade album help to diffuse the situation. Raw, poetic, and calculated, she displayed her grief. A frenzy was sparked by lyrics such as, "He only wants me when I'm not there. He'd better call Becky with the good hair." Everyone was curious about Becky's identity. Rita Ora, Rachel Roy, or someone else. However, Kelly Rowland's inclusion on the list was unexpected. That seemed unimaginable, too intimate, too near to home. However, fans are bringing up old footage, interviews, and subtly tense moments. There are certain clips when the energy between Bey and Kelly is off. The way they embrace, and the way they look away from specific looks. It seems frigid in retrospect. There is even conjecture that their friendship's public persona has been meticulously constructed. That the Grammy backstage pictures, Instagram shoutouts, and group reunions are all merely ways to preserve the brand. Both smoke and mirrors in order to maintain the brand's integrity while the real connection subtly soured behind closed doors. Jay, meantime, is silently hovering above it all. Not even the courtesy of clarification for Rymier or the others. No confirmations, no denials. He seems to have perfected plausible deniability. Never far enough to dispel suspicion, but just far enough to avoid accountability. The charade is no longer convincing. The court of public opinion is becoming more vocal and posing pertinent. Queries. Was Kelly merely one more name on a lengthy line of relationships? Or did she pose a greater threat? Someone who had too many secrets and knew him too well. The whole incident is made louder by Kelly Rowland's quiet. She has never explicitly addressed the rumors, refuted them, provided an explanation, or even recoiled when admirers analyzed every word and every appearance. However, perhaps that quiet wasn't an avoidance tactic. It might have been survival. Because let's face it, defying Jay-Z and Beyonce is more than simply treading carefully. It's stepping into a maelstrom. Consider it. Beyonce is more than just a famous person. An institution. She is the Bee Queen. She has spent decades cultivating a reputation for strength, commitment, and excellence. It's risky to be linked to someone who might unintentionally jeopardize that reputation. It's also possible that Kelly's tightrope was becoming thinner each year. Some claim that her career was purposefully hampered. That whenever she got too much attention behind the scenes, someone called, that her endeavors were discreetly put on hold. Her momentum changed course. Excuses were always available. Inaccurate sound, incorrect timing, and no label support. Fans now question, however, if there was someone intentionally ensuring she never overshadowed the crown. Additionally, Jay's past with women is well known, yet oddly shielded. Rapper Leave, who previously claimed that Jay made an attempt to approach her when she was out with Beyonce, went viral after saying that Solange gave her a look that almost caused her to flee. That story may have been dismissed, but Live went on to release the song, Sorry, Mrs. Carter, which had lyrics that were a bit too detailed. She was clear, she gave names. And once more, Jay-Z remained silent with no answer. No answer. This motif keeps coming up. Rita Ora, Rachel Roy, and Foxy Brown. Every time there's a whirl of drama, a brief buzz, and then nothing. It is cleaned by the machine. PR departments carry out their duties. The story restarts. However, that trend is currently reversing. People have had enough of rumors being ignored, particularly when the timelines begin to overlap. How many more stories exist if Reimer has been battling for more than 10 years to have a test completed and Jay-Z was connected with Wanda in the 1990s? How many children have wondered as they grow up whether the man they see in music videos is actually their father? What about Titan? What would happen if he began to ask the same questions as an adult? How long until he begins to probe if the likeness is more than a coincidence? Let's not act as though this generation lacks courage. These children are not secretive. They go live with them, upload them, and record them. It's not just a murky notion that Jay-Z may have gone too far with Kelly. It's changing the legacy. Not only his brand, but Beyonce's as well. If that's accurate, it completely changes our understanding of that close-knit, impenetrable circle. That's why Solange is angry. It explains Bey and Kelly's cool distancing from one another. It even gives Beyoncé's songs a new depth, transforming their enigmatic lyrics into covert confessions. And perhaps it explains the extreme quiet. Not because nothing took place, but because too much did. Perhaps Kelly believed that the only way to save what little she had left was to remain silent. Perhaps Beyoncé is more knowledgeable than she admits. Perhaps Jay-Z's quiet is a sign of fear rather than strength. Ultimately, the goal is not to validate every rumor. It has to do with the weight of things that have been kept unsaid for too long, the unrelenting strain, the looks that convey more information than any news release ever could. The facts that no one is willing to speak are sometimes the loudest. And in this instance, the quiet could be the loudest cry of